guys. Looking forward to be happy on the porch furniture.
I'll start again. Good afternoon and welcome to the Committee of Adjustment hearings for Suburban Panel Number 2. We are a City of Ottawa quasi-judicial tribunal that holds public hearings to consider Planning Act applications, including minor variances to the zoning requirements and consent to sever land. Our hearings are now in person at Ben Franklin Place, 101 Centerpoint Drive. We also enable remote participation by video conferencing for registered speakers. We are live streaming on YouTube, and the video will be archived and available for future viewing by the public. My name is Fabian Poulin. I'll be chairing today's hearings, and you can address me by my name or as chair. And and with me are my fellow panel members, Jay Baltz, George Barrett, Heather McLean, and Julianne Wright. The procedure for the hearings will be as follows. Listed on the agenda and appearing on screen from time to time are the applications we'll hear today. For the sake of efficiency, I may deal with agenda items in a different order. Panel members have reviewed the planning reports and any written submissions in support or in opposition to each of the applications. Today, we'll hear any oral submissions relating to the applications. As part of the statutory public notification requirements, each applicant was required to post a sign on the property in question before the hearing. They also had to confirm in writing that they did so, or they'll need to swear or affirm an oath today that they've fulfilled the sign posting. Otherwise, we may have to adjourn or postpone the hearing. The panel may ask for a brief presentation of an application followed by questions for the applicant and city planning staff. We will then hear from members of the public who have registered to speak, and we may also have questions for them. Finally, the applicant, who has the burden of proof, will have an opportunity to make final comments and reply. Please address your comments to me as the chair, starting first with your name, spelling it if necessary, and your municipal address for the record. All presentations are limited to 5 minutes. Any exceptions will be at my discretion. At the end of the hearing, the panel may either make an oral decision or we may reserve our decision, which means we won't be, the decision won't be delivered today. In either case, and within 10 days, the Committee of Adjustment will send the official written decision and reasons for it to all parties, participants, and anyone else who has requested a copy. Does anyone have any questions about the procedure we'll be following today? No questions? We have several applications to hear, but we need to deal with some procedural matters. Does anyone, any panel member have any, do they have any conflicts of interest with any other items on the agenda of any of this panel or any other panel?
No.
Nope, there are no conflicts of interest. So now we'll turn right to the applications we'll be dealing with. First, dealing with adjournment requests. Today, I believe we have possibly 2 adjournment requests. The first one has to do with item number 6, 533 Rowanwood. Christine McQuaig, are you available?
Hello, Mr. Chair. I'm here to speak on behalf of 533 Rowanwood. My name is Christine McQuaig, Q9 Planning and Design.
Thank you. So I understand that there is a request by the planning department that they would like to have this application adjourned. Are you in agreement?
The application for adjournment was relayed through planning staff requested by the infill forester. We've had, I will note, I was originally opposed to the adjournment request. The proposed variance, also stated in the staff report, is unrelated to the tree discussion. Where it does come into discussion is that variances are generally tied to the plans. If there's minor adjustments, that's fine, that's not an issue. What Ms. Young has relayed to us in our discussions is that she believes one of the trees, the request for permit to remove it will be denied at the building permit stage. And so we are unclear at this time how that may affect the plans. And so we do want to take 2 weeks, and we think that's all that we need, just to confirm that the driveway can be shifted around the tree. So we would like to be on the next committee agenda.
Okay,
Thank you.
so. Is Shahira Jalal from the city available?
Hi, Mr. Chair. Yes, I am.
Good afternoon. Are you in agreement with this request to have the application adjourned for 2 weeks?
Yes, I'm in agreement.
Okay. I'd like to ask the panel for approval of adjourning this application for 2 weeks.
Just to confirm, Mr. Chair, that's March 19th for the record.
Okay, thank you. March 19th. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Your application is adjourned until March 19th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so now we'll proceed in order. We'll go on to application number 1.
Mr. Chair, sorry to interrupt, but we were going to suggest another adjournment. Number 4.
Thank you. Yes, I believe there's a suggestion that there is a requirement for a further further variance. And so I would like to ask Victoria Zamchevska, I hope I said that right, concerning 1943 Fairbanks Avenue. Are you online or in the house?
She's online, Mr. Chair. She's just joining the webinar now.
Okay, thank you. Hello, Ms. Zamchevska.
Hi, Mr. Chair.
So we have a suggestion that there might be a need for a further variance here.
Okay.
Are you aware of that?
No.
So the variance requested is to get the percentage of the reduced rear yard.
Okay. So there was a question from the planner about that. Well, she asked me about the area of the backyard, but there was no mention about the percentage.
Okay.
So what's the, is there, are we over the percentage allowed or what's the
I
problem?
don't know what the percentage is. I guess that's the question.
Okay.
Do you have any
Uh,
comments, Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I can speak to this. So section 144, provision 3 of the zoning bylaw essentially prescribes that the rear yard setback has to be 30% of the lot depth or equal to 30% of the lot depth. And then it also outlines that the rear yard area should be 25% of the lot area. As the applicant applied for relief for the reduced rear yard setback, I simply wanted to flag for the committee to adjust the public notice to also include relief from the rear yard area. Since this is a regular rectangular shaped lot, a reduction in the rear yard setback, so the depth for the rear yard would obviously result in a reduced rear yard area. So I'm not of the opinion that a second minor variance is required. Instead, I'm just recommending that we revise the wording of the variance to capture both the rear yard setback and the rear yard area.
Okay, so what's the percentage then?
So the rear yard area would be 149 square meters, whereas I think 183 square meters would be required. I can do a quick calculation if that's helpful.
Okay. So Ms. Shamchevska, just so you know, what we're debating here, or discussing, is essentially if this is required other variance, there will be a requirement to recirculate.
Okay.
So, okay, so if this is a required variance, that needs to be added to the notice, it has to be recirculated.
Okay, got it.
Sorry about that. My calculator was just not working. So it's about 18%.
Okay, I think, Member Baltz would like to ask a question.
So, yeah, I'm just trying to get a handle, through you, Mr. Chair, of what exactly the variances now are. So I think the rear yard setback, the actual distance is not under discussion. So if I understand it correctly, the 149 square meters rather than 183 square meters that would be required, and that would be 18% rather than 30%, correct?
No, sorry. The rear yard area is 25% of the total lot area.
Not 30%.
Correct. The 30% is for the setback. So the bylaw prescribes
Yeah.
A rear yard setback that has to be 30% of the lot depth. And then the second piece there is that the rear yard area has to comprise 25% of the total lot area. So if we're reducing the rear yard setback, we're also reducing the rear yard area.
Yeah, I understand that part. It sounded like in that discussion, you were saying that there was another provision for 30% of the rear yard area, and that's not.
No,
Okay.
no, my apologies.
Okay, that's fine. So our two or possibly one variances are reduction in the rear yard setback, which is 21.6 rather than 30%, and a reduction in the rear yard area, which should be 25% of the lot area and is instead 18%, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify. Then we can go on to a discussion of whether that warrants recirculation.
Yeah. So I'd like to ask the rest of the panel, do they think it warrants the recirculation? It is a substantial difference between 25 and to 18% that really the public should be aware of. So to that end, I'd like to ask the panel if they'd like to adjourn this application. Sine die until such time as this variance can be communicated to the community. All those in favor of adjournment, sine die, please raise your hands. Ms. Zamcheska, we're going to be adjourning your application sine die until this additional variance can be added to the notice and sent out.
Okay.
Okay,
So would I be communicating with the staff at the city regarding this, or how do I proceed?
yeah, you need to communicate with committee staff and make sure that we get the true variances and then recirculate.
So I would need to add this additional item as a second
Correct.
second item.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Okay, now moving on to agenda item number 1. This, oh, that's, no, she just left. She just adjourned.
Okay.
Hers for 2 weeks, yes. So we're on item number 1, having to do with 2272 Lawn Avenue. Jessica Dayu, are you available? Good morning, afternoon.
I'll spell it on my chair. Hi, good afternoon.
Hi. Can you state your name and then you can give us a brief description of your application.
Great, thank you very much. My name is Jessica Dawu. I'm acting agent for the owners of the property. And would you like a full presentation or just a simple overview of the
Just you can
application?
give a simple overview. We can-
Sure, absolutely. So this is a project located at 2272 Lawn Avenue, which is at the corner of Woodland and Lawn Avenue. It's a corner lot. The proposal is to demolish the existing single-family home and develop a 2-story semi-detached dwelling with 2 primary dwelling units. There are no additional dwelling units proposed as part of the application. Each unit will have front-facing attached garages, which are permitted per the results of the confirmed streetscape character analysis. And the requested relief today is for a very minor lot area provision. It's only about a 1.1 and 1.3 square meter difference than what is permitted by the zoning bylaw. And we have requested relief for a reduced front yard setback of 4 meters, whereas 5 is required, and reduced rear yard setback of 1.2 meters, whereas 4 is required. This is somewhat with corner lot developments. What we have tried to achieve on this property is drawing on elements of the zoning bylaw with the provided rear yard setback, which will function more similarly to an interior side yard setback, and then reorienting the available open and outdoor space so that both of the dwelling units will have appropriate usable and functional outdoor amenity space, which will be situated in the interior side yard setback and in the corner side yard setback. So the requested relief today is really just to simply reorient that open space with the rear wall functioning as more similarly to an interior side yard setback with window placement. There will be no usable sort of windows on that facade. And then again, reorienting the space to the side yards. I have a full presentation if you would like more information, of course, but I think that is sort of the general summary of the application.
Great, thank you very much. Are you familiar with the requested conditions?
Yes, we are familiar with the conditions.
Do you agree with them?
We do agree with them.
Perfect. Okay. Now I'd like to ask panel for any questions they may have. Mr. Baltz?
Sure, I'll go first. So there was a letter of concern about the sight lines because of a hedge, but I understand condition number 5 is going to remedy that, and they're taking a corner sight line, and that hedge will be removed in the sight line.
That's correct. Staff has requested a 3x3 corner site triangle. So the hedge will need to be removed up to that edge of that corner site triangle, and they will be preserving the rest of the hedge because it is mature and provides a nice, tree canopy and privacy for that yard. But the concerns regarding sightlines will be resolved inherently through the provision of that condition.
If it's okay, Ms. I have one more question.
Absolutely.
So this is more of a clarification, but in your planning rationale on page 21 for variance C and F, it makes reference to Lewis Lane or Loose Lane once or twice. I assume that was a pasting error or something, but can you
Absolutely.
confirm that the rationale actually applies to the current?
Yes, yeah, my apologies. I am a one-person show, so sometimes in rereading my documents, I do miss wording. But yes, that should read Lawn Avenue. The rationale absolutely remains the same. This is semi-detached dwelling on a corner lot where both frontages are facing the longest street frontage, which currently actually functions as the front yard, though from a technical bylaws perspective, woodland would actually be the zoning bylaws interpretation for front yard setback. But yes, the rationale will still stay the same. It's just a difference of copying error in my planning rationale. But thank you for raising that.
Yep, thank you.
Ms. McLean.
Nothing.
Okay, Ms. Wright,
Nothing.
Mr. Barrett.
Just a minor point of clarification with regards to your presentation. You had mentioned the minor variance for reduced front yard setback as 4 meters. It's actually 5. And also the requirement for a minimum front yard setback is 6 meters. So just to clarify that.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, you're absolutely correct. I'm reversing them in my mind and helpful to have sometimes the presentation notes in front of you. But yes, the required front yard setback is 6 meters, provided is, and requested variance would be 5. Rear yard setback required is 4, requested being 1.2. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to ask Planning Services Soleil Soyac to please make some comments with respect to this application.
Thank you, Chair. Staff has no concerns with the reduced front yard and rear yard setback, as well as the lot area. Like it was mentioned before, the rear yard setback functions more as a side yard. And given that there are space on the corner and the side yard of the other property for amenity space, staff has no concerns.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask panel if they've got any questions. Mr. Barrett?
No.
Ms. Wright? No. Ms. McLean? No. Mr. Baltz?
Because we got a letter and nobody is presenting, I feel I should ask this question through you, Mr. Chair. There was a question from neighbor about the effect of the addition on the viability of the hedge and basically the green space. Are you satisfied that that's not going to be an issue?
I would defer that to the forester on the call.
Hey, thank you for the question. Unfortunately, they didn't really speak to the hedges in the tree information report, so I don't have a lot to go on there. It does look like the hedge is owned by the neighbor, so technically it's not covered under the bylaw, it's not protected, but it is the responsibility of the applicant to ensure that they're not damaging or killing anything on the neighbor's property. So it looks like excavation would be very close to where the hedge is, but I think they should seek further report or further information from their arborist to ensure that the excavation for the building will not impact the hedge.
And you, in your opinion, there'll be enough, once the construction is complete, there'll be enough sunlight and exposure for viability? Can you tell?
I can't really tell from these plans, unfortunately. Yeah, I think that's another thing that the arborist should comment on, but I mean, there are plenty of hedges that do survive in close proximity to buildings, so I wouldn't necessarily be concerned about the hedge declining from that perspective. It's more the excavation for the building that I would be concerned about.
Okay. And that's the responsibility of the owner to ensure.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Pauls. Now, Ms. Daoua, it's up to you. You have the last word.
Thank you very much. Actually, I would like to just touch on, if it's okay, your questions regarding the hedging. We have had further consultation with our retained arborist regarding protection measures for that fence. So we've already started that line of communication, and the intention is to retain that fence. With the orientation of the lot, the sun will actually be getting the majority of the exposure from the opposite side of the fence, from the south. So the proposed development on this property would have less impact on it. But the recommendation was to cleanly sever the roots by hand at closest points to the foundation, and to retain as much of the foliage as possible. So those efforts will be taken to ensure that. Just overall, speaking to the general intention of the application, this is a development concept. Various iterations of the development were reviewed to determine the best and most appropriate development format for this site. This is a modest form of gentle intensification in the urban area on a fully serviced lot, provides ground-oriented family-sized dwelling units, which is encouraged by the official plan policies for housing and intensification. It is close to transit, so there's opportunity for further intensification in this area, and it is within the evolving overlay of the official plan, which signifies a gradual change in the form and densities and the intensification that will be seen in these particular areas. So we feel that this semi-detached dwelling contributes positively to the overall streetscape character. Retaining its frontage along the along the lawn frontage is also desirable because it does allow for continued activation and animation of that streetscape, which is the existing case, and retention of the side yard hedging and what is able to be kept with the site triangle considerations along the woodland frontage. So overall, we do feel like the applications meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act and the subdivision criteria under the Planning Act as well.
Thank you, Ms. Du. Any more questions, Mr. Barrett? Ms. Wright?
If there's anybody here in the audience.
Sure, I'll ask that. Any other questions, Mr.? No, no. Is there anybody here in the audience who would like to have a chance to speak? No. Thank you very much. I'd like to ask the panel now if they would like to reserve their decision on this application. All those in favor of reserving the application, please raise your hands. The application is reserved. You will get your notification of our decision within 10 days.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we're on to application number 2. We could have fast tracked this earlier, and because there's only one change or amendment has to be made to the legal description and zoning. So if Michael Hanafi is here. So Mr. Hanafi, the purpose, just read this thing. We could have fast tracked it, except there was some changes to the amendments to the notice that has to be made on the floor here. So part of the criteria is there is no objection or concerns from the parties, the applicant, city, or the public. There are no amendments required, which is why we're having to see this. No registered speakers. Signposting declaration has been received. The applicant or the agent has confirmed that they agree with all requested conditions, if there are any, and there are no questions from panelists. So there are no questions from panelists right now, but we do need to make the following change to the legal description zoning. So we need to remove part lot 1 concession 11 plan 4M 1732. And we replace that with block 3 plan 4M 1732. Are you in agreement with that, sir?
I am.
Okay. So we would have fast tracked it. So I'd like to now ask the panel if they would approve this application with that minor change to the notice. All those in favor? Your application is approved, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now we're moving on to application number 3. This has to do with 2666 10th Line Road. Vincent Denomey, are you here? Are you online? I don't see Mr. Denomey. Oh,
Sorry,
there-
I just had, sorry, Chair, I just had to take a moment to join.
That's fine. Now, we have not received your declaration on the sign posting, so I have to administer an oath concerning that sign posting. Can you take that oath today?
Yes,
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing as instructed and was clearly visible and legible during that time? Do you swear?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. So now you can proceed with giving us a brief description of your application, sir.
Absolutely. So I'm Vincent Denime. Claridge Homes is the applicant. My address for the office is 505 Preston Street, Ottawa, Ontario. So what we have here is a rural piece of property that we would like to sever into three parts. Part one being sold to a Catholic school board, part two being a road widening along 10th Line Road, and part three being a retained parcel that will stay in our ownership. A bit of a long process. The city had some concerns with the western boundary of the severed portion. It's along a creek, and there was some Drainage Act reports that needed to be finalized prior to. So we went through the school board went through a zoning application to determine that eastern property line, and it has now been determined and approved. So we're back in front of the committee to request consent to sever this plan.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to ask panel members if they have any questions. Ms. McLean, have you got any questions?
Just of the planner. city
Okay. Mr. Baltz,
planner. Yeah, on the city planner.
any questions, Mr. Baltz? Any questions, Ms. Wright? Mr. Barrett? Okay, thank you very much. I'd now like to ask our planning services, Casca Rosero, are you available?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'm available.
Would you like to make some comments concerning this application?
No, everything's contained in my staff report.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. McLean, do you have any questions for the planner?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to city planning staff, just wondered about a condition for demolition of any existing structures on the subject land.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I understand it from Building Code Services, the condition that we'd initially imposed on the application that required removal or providing evidence of removal of the detached dwelling, we decided to take it out of this report because the applicant has already submitted their demolition permit. So the demolition of the structure is underway or will be imminent.
Okay, I guess the second question I had was regarding the street frontage for the retained land and whether or not we're being asked to create a parcel that's landlocked.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So that parcel is subject to another zoning bylaw amendment, I believe, and plan of subdivision. So it's currently landlocked, but it's included in a larger plan of subdivision application.
So how, I guess I'm uncomfortable in creating a retained parcel of land that's landlocked. It doesn't meet the zoning bylaw requirements at this time. So is there any kind of condition that we could impose that would alleviate this concern?
I'm not sure what condition we would oppose. Again, it's subject to plan of subdivision. So the intent is that the lands will be developed in the future, but which is why we weren't concerned about creating a landlocked parcel because it's part of a larger plan of subdivision. And the application's active.
Mr. Denomey, can you show us that larger plan of subdivision?
I sure can. I think I filed it with the committee, but I can pull it up if I have, if I'm allowed to share.
That what's on the screen there?
No, sorry, that's actually a plan that was wrongfully shared by accident. I'll also add that we own all the neighboring properties that this retained parcel is abutting to. So I can't share my screen. It says host disable. There it is. Ooh. Chair, can the slide stay on this one? I can't hear you.
Can you take us through it? Show us where the retained land is.
So the retained land is everything east to the creek, west to the creek, and that yellow block. So the yellow block is what is being sold to the school.
Okay.
And then the remainder is the creek along with the blocks that are future townhomes and single family dwellings. So as you can see, it's part of a much larger development site.
Okay. And what's the name of that road with the cul-de-sac? Is that the one that's going to access the site, the retained land?
So the one that kind of bends
Yeah,
will be
comes down to
yeah.
the bottom of the page and it's a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, so that goes from the Mattamy subdivision to the north all the way down to Wall Road. Yep.
Okay. Ms. McLean?
So how does the retained land, what street is the retained land going to front on? Or why can you not merge title to, so that it emerges with other Claridge owned lands that have current public street frontage? Is that possible, or is there a condition we can impose, or?
Through you, Chair, I can look into that. The multiple properties are owned under different corporate entities. So I'd have to double check just what the implications are to merge title with the surrounding lands. We've done it elsewhere, and so I don't foresee any issues, but I would have to double check.
It's just at this point, I'm uncomfortable with creating a landlocked parcel of land without some kind of assurances that it'll either merge with abutting land or that there's some kind of control that will create public frontage for this land. So I'll just leave it at that. Thanks. Thank you.
Mr. Baltz?
Yeah, I mean, I'm similarly uncomfortable with our authority to create a parcel of land that doesn't conform with the zoning bylaw. And I'm not quite sure, other than adjourning, what the
That certainly is one option. for
yeah,
sure.
well, adjourning or saying no, what the options are for us here, because I'm not sure we have the statutory authority to do that without a variance in place, at least that varies that requirement.
Okay.
And we also have, I mean, I know it's Claridge and that this will most likely go ahead, but we don't necessarily have the assurance that this won't, that this development won't stop and that landlocked piece of land not be developed and not hooked up to to frontage on a public way.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Barrett, do you have any questions?
No.
Ms. Wright?
No.
Okay. Do you understand our concern, Mr. Denome? Okay.
Yeah, I do. I'm gonna suggest that we probably adjourn for 2 weeks. And that'll give me enough time to ensure that that retained parcel merges with surrounding lands.
Okay. I
So
think-
then,
I think that's wise too. So to that end, I'd like to ask panel for, to adjourn this application for 2 weeks. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Your application is adjourned for 2 weeks, sir. Thank you.
For the record, that's March 19th.
March the 19th. Our next item on the agenda is item number 5, having to do with 1983 Carling Avenue. Jonah Bond, are you available?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I am, in fact, Jonah Bonn, JONAHBONN. The address for my office is 311 Richmond Road, Suite 301.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We just have an amendment to make to the application,
Yeah.
sir. So it reads as follows. Part 8 is subject to an existing easement, LT 44938.
Mhm.
It is proposed to create an easement over parts 5, 6, 9, and 12
Correct.
in favor of parts 4, 13 to 17 for vehicular and pedestrian access. In addition, it's proposed to create an easement over parts 13 and 14 in favor of parts 2, 3, 5 to 12 for vehicular and pedestrian access. Do you agree with that, sir?
Yes, that is correct. I dealt with staff planner on this to verify that is how it should be
Great.
recorded.
Would you like to please give us a brief description of the application today?
Sure, I have an application, I have a presentation. If that's not necessary, it's in PowerPoint. I can simply describe what's going on. There's a parcel of land that fronts on Carling Avenue. It contains right now 3 walk-up apartment buildings. And the applicant is looking to develop the corner parcel on Bromley, which has for many years been a vacant parking lot, surface parking. The applicant is looking to construct a 3.5-story 21 unit apartment building, so a low rise. There are 3 planning matters which we're addressing. Number 1 is the variances. The variances are twofold. One is increase in height from 11 meters to 11.998 meters. Uniform height of the building throughout the entirety of the project, as opposed to some sort of a step back or angular plane. And the second variance, which is why we're returning here today, this was adjourned sine die. An additional variance was picked up with respect to the amount of glazing along along Bromley. We do not meet the 50%. We are below that at 32%. And that was an additional variance that was picked up in a more detailed review of the plans. So those are the 2 variances. And then, of course, there is the severance of the 2 parcels. The main reason the severance is required is to facilitate mortgage financing to permit a lender to encumber the development parcel separately from the 3 developed parcels.
Thank you. Are you familiar with the conditions on this application?
Yes, I am indeed.
Do you agree with those conditions?
I do.
Great. Okay, now I'd like to ask panel for any questions they may have. Mr. Bultz?
I alphabetically go first each time. Yeah, this is more confirmation.
Sure.
That I need. So the retained or the parcel that's going to have the 3 apartment buildings on it, that will comply to the zoning bylaw, and in particular, because you're getting rid of this parking lot, the required minimum parking is provided on that lot.
Right, I believe that to be the case, and we're not seeking any variances with respect to parking on either property.
Just want to confirm that we're not
Yeah.
creating a lot that doesn't meet the
Right.
zoning bylaw. Maybe the planner can comment as well.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
When we get to
planner.
that.
We'll get to the planner in just a moment. Ms. McLean? No? Ms. Wright? Mr. Barrett? Okay, thank you. Now, Ms. Gachin, would you like to make some comments on this application?
Sure. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. So I have no further comments in terms of the integrity of the application. Staff are in agreement with the variances, have no further concerns. In terms of Member Baltz's question regarding if this will result in a non-compliant lot, it's staff's understanding that no, it will not create that in terms of the parking, and staff are comfortable with that based on the site plan control application, which is being in process for the newly created parcel.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Baltz?
Yes, I think so. So
Okay.
there's no non-compliance on the retained lot, correct?
As far as I know, no, we have it on the record now.
Okay, now I'd like to ask the rest of the panel if they have any questions. Mr. McLean? No. Ms. Wright? No. Mr. Barrett? Nope. Okay. Oh, it's now up to you. You have the last word, Mr. Bond.
My final words.
Final words.
I've got nothing further to add. If there are no other questions and no one wishes to see the beautiful PowerPoint presentation, I'm not offended. It's okay. I'm happy to accept your decision now.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Barrett, do you have any further questions? No. Ms. Wright? No. Ms. McLean? Mr. Belts? Okay. So to that end, I'd like to ask the panel if they would like to reserve this application.
Mr. Chair, could we put out a call to the public if there's any interested parties?
Sure. Are there any interested parties looking to make a comment on this application? No interested parties. So again, coming back to the panel, asking them if they'd like to reserve on this application. All those in favor, please raise your hands. This application is reserved. You'll get our decision within 10 days, sir.
I think you said, did you say reserved or approved?
Reserved. You'll have your decision
Oh,
in 10 days.
got it. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I believe that concludes our business today. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. What's that?
44 minutes. Your record is in chat.
Yes. Yeah, we're off.